If there's anything that I've learned about bass fishing, it's that it changes every single year. It seems like some of the lures, techniques, presentations that I used last year didn't always work the best this year in some of those same lakes. And some of those same lures that I used this year probably aren't going to work next year. There's just always a cycle. There's always constant changes in bass fishing. And today I want to talk about 5 lessons that will help you to change with the bass each and every year so that we can catch a lot more bass in 2022. So stay tuned. It's going to be a good one. This video is brought to you by finfishing.com. The link is down below in the description. At FinFishing, you can get some awesome bass hats and some performance sun shirts. And right now, everything is 20% off for just a few more days. January 1st is going to be the last day that you can get some of this apparel at 20% off. So whether you like hats like this one that I'm wearing, maybe you like one of the newer ones, which is a camo black mesh hat, or maybe one of the old faithfuls like this Black Elements hat, or whether you like sun shirts like the one that I'm wearing here, or a hooded sun shirt. This actually is one of the favorites on the website right now. Whatever it may be, you can get them at 20% off. The link is down below in the description. Just go ahead, hit that link, and greatly help support the Bass Fishing HQ channel. All right, guys, this video is a lot different than a lot of my videos, mainly because my wife is a little bit under the weather. It's not COVID, but I don't have a ton of time to edit this video. So it's really gonna be a one-shot video because I'm trying to help out with our kids and everything like that. But I can guarantee you that the content, the stuff that we're gonna talk about, the 5 lessons is still gonna be really, really good. So let's go ahead and dive right into it. So the first big lesson that really helps me to continue to change with the bass is actually from Rick Klaun. And if you guys don't know who Rick Klaun is, he's one of the best tournament bass fishermen that there's ever been. He's won 4 Bassmaster Classics. He's won probably 20 other, some big level tournaments. I mean, he's a phenomenal angler. He's probably, I think he's fished in 350, 400, I mean, a ton of bass tournaments. So the guy has a ton of knowledge. And something that I really like that he said, I don't even remember where I read this or where I saw it. It was years and years ago, but he broke bass fishing down into 3 kind of categories. And the first category is finding fish. The second category is presentation. And the third category is execution. Now, finding fish is obviously what it sounds like. This is learning how and where to find fish. This is a huge part of bass fishing, which can take a lot of years to develop. Now, presentation obviously is going to come down to your lure selection, what you're going to throw once you find the fish. What types of lures do you throw? How are you going to present that bait? Maybe it's on top, maybe it's on the bottom, maybe it's in between. And then execution. This is after you actually hook the fish, actually executing, putting them in the boat or on the shore if you're a bank angler. And what I love about this is that it really gives us 3 different kind of categories or phases that us as anglers can work on, because I guarantee that if you're watching this, you're probably good at maybe one of these or maybe 2 of them, but maybe there's a third one that you struggle with. For instance, maybe you're really good about finding the right lure like for the bass to eat, and you're really good at catching them, you know. So maybe you struggle with actually finding the fish, but once you find them, you know how to catch them, you know what you should be throwing, and not only that, but you're putting them in the boat, right? You have the best equipment to help you put them in the boat. Or maybe you're bad at execution. Maybe you're really good at finding the bass. Maybe you can really put the right lure in front of those fish, but you lose a lot of fish. Maybe you're using the wrong equipment. Maybe your hooks aren't sharp. Maybe you're using the wrong line. There's a lot of different variables there. But the thing is that if you look at those 3 different kind of categories, there's always one that we can be constantly working on every single year. So going into 2022, that's something that you should focus on. Is which one of those should you focus on the most? Should it be the finding the bass part? Then spend a lot of time trying to learn how to find bass. Maybe it's presentation. Maybe you need to learn how to be better at lure selection and what lures work best under certain conditions. We're actually going to talk about that a little bit later in this video. Or it may be execution. This is a huge one because a lot of guys, especially if you're a tournament angler, you may be able to find fish, you may be able to catch or hook the fish, but you struggle at landing the fish. Maybe you're losing a lot of fish, and that really a lot of times that's going to come down to equipment and having the right equipment, using the right rods, lines, all that stuff. But whatever it may be, if you guys kind of focus on one of these going into 2022, it's going to help you all around to be a better angler. So look at that list again. Finding bass, presentation, execution. Find which one you're struggling with and start working on that in 2022, and you're going to become a lot better angler. All right, going on to the next one. And this next lesson is really for tournament anglers. So if you're a beginning fisherman, I have a couple of points here for you later in this video, but as my background is really in tournament fishing, and this next one, it's almost a mental thing, but I really just, it's so important, especially again, if you're fishing tournaments constantly, and even if you're not fishing tournaments, this is still going to help you to catch fish consistently, okay? And this actually comes from, I think it was a post that I saw from Hunter Shyrock, okay? And I think that his brother sent this to him. Hunter is another professional bass fisherman, and I think his brother, Fletcher, sent him a text one time that said, do what you do and do it the best. And this is so important when it comes to bass fishing. Again, especially if you're a tournament angler. I could literally go on and on about this exact sentence right here. Do what you do and do it the best. I think a lot of us as anglers, there are so many different techniques, there's so many different lures that we want to try to learn them all. But when it comes to fishing a tournament, typically you're going to do the best in tournaments where it really lines up with what you like to do. If you think about if you guys watch tournaments, if you watch Bassmasters, if you watch Major League Fishing, if you watch FLW, well, FLW is no more, but if you watch tournament fishing on TV, a lot of the guys who win the tournaments are going to say the exact same thing, and they really and this is what they say. They say, this tournament really lined up for me. Or they might say, I'm fishing the way I like to fish. Those are two big things you hear a ton. And that's because those anglers did what they do and they did it the best that they could, right? There's so many different ways to catch bass. Literally, if you go to a lake, there's probably gonna be 5, 6, 7 different patterns that are always happening on the lake that you really wanna do what you do the best. For instance, if you are a shallow water angler, you shouldn't even worry about finding fish deep, right? And maybe you're the opposite. Maybe you're really into your electronics. You shouldn't even worry about finding fish shallow. Just do what you do and do it better than anyone else. I really, really believe that if you do that, you're gonna start winning a lot of tournaments. Now, the big thing that you hear a lot about is electronics, right? You hear guys talk, a lot of guys will complain about electronics, but here's the thing. If you look at a guy like Patrick Walters, right? Patrick Walters, Bassmaster Elite Series guy, has won a ton of tournaments using his forward-facing electronics and using electronics in general. A great fisherman, has really dialed in that part of fishing. Then you look at a guy like John Cox. John Cox sometimes doesn't even have electronics with him, period. I mean, the guy is always fishing shallow, whether it's spring, whether it's summer, whether it's fall. He's always fishing shallow. He's always trying to figure out the shallow bass. He doesn't even worry about fish offshore or using his electronics hardly. He's just trying to find fish shallow. And when he does that, he wins tournaments as well. And that's the big thing, and this is a big debate in bass fishing, is guys think that these electronics are the end all be all to bass fishing. And I'm gonna tell you the truth, like, that's just not the case. And the truth is that the more people that start to use their electronics, the more open the bank is gonna be for guys who like to fish that way. So it's really kind of a win-win situation. And there are gonna be times that if you don't have a forward-facing sonar, you're probably not going to win a tournament. But there's also tournaments where if you're not fishing shallow, if you're not fishing the bank and you're trying to use that forward-facing sonar, you're also going to get beat, okay? So you just have to focus on what you do the best and really concentrate on it, especially if you fish tournaments. All right, moving on to the next one. This is the third big lesson. I think that this is extremely huge, and it's really the foundation. This is why I do videos on YouTube, and that is never stop learning. Never stop learning. As a bass fisherman, whether you, obviously if you're just getting started, you're gonna be learning a lot, but if you've been fishing for 30 or 40 years, there's always something out there that's new or different or something that you're just not used to doing that you can learn. Now, obviously, you can find that kind of stuff on YouTube. You know, I watch other YouTube channels all the time. I try to bring you guys the best content that I know, but I watch other YouTube channels all the time trying to learn different things. The other big thing that you can simply do is get in a boat with some guy. This is almost like an old school approach anymore because we have this access to so much content online, but getting in a boat with someone who knows what they're doing, maybe a technique that you don't have the most confidence in, is the best way to learn how to fish that lure. For instance, one of my best friends, he really likes to use a spinning rod. I mean, like, that's his jam. Like, he wants to hear that line singing. He wants to hear that drag singing. That's his deal. And I'm not always that way. Like, there's times where, you know, I used to really not like it. I used to just be straight power fishing. Like, I used to just throw spinner baits, crankbaits, jigs, all that kind of stuff. But I have learned quite a bit. If he's watching this right now, he's gonna be loving this. But I've definitely learned a lot from him when it comes to finesse techniques and finesse fishing. And now I have really, like, finesse fishing is a huge part of what I do. As a matter of fact, a lot of tournaments that I'm fishing, I have a spinning rod in my hand, okay? It's just something that happens. So don't be afraid to just get in a boat with somebody, especially, again, if they're better at something than you, or you know that they're good at a certain technique. That is the best way to learn, is to just ask, hey, can you just teach me that technique? Like, you obviously know it better. That is the best way to learn, and I will stand by that time and time again. So the other thing that I think is really important when it comes to never stop learning is don't be afraid to not catch a bass. I actually talked about this in a video a couple weeks ago, and I talked about it in this segment where I said know your goals when you go out there fishing. And here's the thing, is that sometimes if you're wanting to learn, right, we're still talking about never stop learning. If you're wanting to learn a new technique, sometimes the best thing you can do is bring just that lure, just that technique, and try to figure it out. You know, if you want to learn how to fish a glide bait, literally keep all the rods out of your boat except for that glide bait and bring it with you and try to learn how to catch fish on a glide bait. You know, if you want to learn how to fish a jig, keep that one bait with you at all times. Don't pick up anything else, because this is the point that I gave in the video, is that you might be able to go out and catch 20 fish on a shaky head. But if you want to learn how to throw a spinner bait, you might only go out there and catch 1 or 2 fish, or you may not even catch a bass at all, but you learn something about that spinner bait, and that is what's important. That's your goal. That's what you should be striving to do. So know your goals and never stop learning. There's always something to be learned in bass fishing, no matter how great of an angler you are. So let's move on to the next one, and this is a tip for the beginner bass fisherman. So if you're a beginner bass fisherman and you're still with me, whether you've been fishing just for a couple weeks, a couple months, maybe you're just gonna start fishing in 2022, don't be overwhelmed. Don't be overwhelmed, right? There are so many different techniques out there. There are so many different lures. There are so many different colors. There are so many different situations. Try not to be overwhelmed by it all. The best thing to do in bass fishing is take your time and really know that it's going to be a process of learning a lot of these lures and techniques. The best thing you can do is just take it one at a time. You know, if you're just getting into fishing, pick up that Texas rig, pick up that Wacky Rig Cinco, and just learn how to catch fish on that. Then learn how to catch fish on a spinnerbait, maybe a chatterbait, maybe a topwater, but take it one step at a time. Try not to get overwhelmed. And another big thing is that you need to simplify bass fishing. This is something that I preach on my channel. This part is not just for beginning bass fishermen. You should always try to strive to just simplify fishing because there's so many different things. You know, one thing is color. I talk about this a ton on the channel is color selection. And I think a lot of guys spend too much time in the bottom of their boat trying to figure out that perfect shade, that perfect color, when there's probably like a big spectrum of colors that the bass are gonna bite that day. You know, your green pumpkins, your black and blues, your whites, those colors get bit across the country. Keep those ones in your hands, learn to find the fish, figure out the fish, and then critique your colors. That is huge, but the big thing is just keep it simple. The whole KISS, keep it simple, stupid, that is so true when it comes to bass fishing. So if you're a beginner fisherman, don't get overwhelmed, simplify it, and know that this is going to be a process for you to learn, but you should really, really enjoy it. And actually, that brings me to my last point, okay? Learn to love bass fishing. You know, whether you're a tournament angler or not, I think that sometimes we can get just caught up in wanting to catch fish that we don't learn to just love being out there. And I know that this is gonna sound cliche to some of you guys, but I just think it's so true, is that, you know, you hear it all the time, a bad day of fishing is better than a good day of work. And that is 100% true, right? If I go out there and it's pouring down rain and I don't catch a dang fish, it is better than sitting behind a desk or mowing a lawn or whatever it may be that you do for work. It is going to be better than that. So just learn to love it. Like every second you get to go fishing, go. And that's something I didn't talk about that I should have, is make sure you're always going in every single condition. You know, whether it's rainy, sunny, cloudy, windy, whatever it may be, just go fishing, because that is the best way to keep up with the change that bass are inevitably going to do every single year. So never stop learning. I hope you guys can take these I hope you guys can take these 5 different lessons that I think are really big lessons in bass fishing and just apply them to your fishing so that you can become a better bass fisherman. If you guys enjoyed this video, don't forget to hit that link right there to go to Fin Fishing. Again, 20% off for just a few more days on a lot of the different apparel that we have there. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, give me a thumbs up, comment below, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video.